VP Green candidate, Ms. Angela Walker, is joining us. So thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you so much to those who reached out and actually, said, you got to have her on, especially Ashley Frame, who is just a sweetheart.
Ashley,
yeah, love her and her hubby. So thank you, Ashley. So, I was going through your history and everything. The number one thing that stood out to me is that you really are one of us, as trite as it sounds. Like you're not a politician, which is the most intriguing part, which means you make the best candidates because you're an activist. So you actually ran as a socialist VP in 2016.
Yes.
So how did that come about?
Because I ran as a socialist, independent socialist for Milwaukee County Sheriff in 2014. And shockingly to me, I wasn't, I'm a broke third party person. We ran a platform on if you want to address, because if you know anything about Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where I'm from, it's one of the most segregated cities in the country. And the Annie Casey Foundation years ago did a study that found that Milwaukee is the worst city in the country for Black children. And so we have a lot there. And my platform was, if you honestly want to address crime in Milwaukee County, let's start looking at systemic racism. Let's start looking at generations of removing resources from people who need them most. Let's look at poverty and go to the core of it. And if you know anything about the individual I was running against, he's a Fox News pundit now, from what I understand, cowboy hat wearing Mr. David. Yeah, interesting people. So I mean, I'm being good. We pulled 20% of the vote in that election, so it was like 67,000 plus people voted for a broke socialist they didn't know anything about. And
that is amazing.
I was shocked. You talk about like when the results were coming in, you always have like a group, and it's like, whoa, wait, what? what? And it was really dope because I was actually like at City Hall and doing something one day, and I said my name out loud, and a tall gentleman behind me said, "Your name is Angela Walker?" I was like, "Yeah." He said, "I'm a sheriff's deputy. I voted for you." So that was pretty massive. And so, that cycle caught the attention of folks in the Socialist Party. And they were running Emilio Mimi Soltysik, one of the dopest people ever, approached me about being his VP. And I just looked at him like he was crazy. And then I told him, I said, now you made me an offer I can't refuse, because the platform is something people need to have. And no one is saying these things in the two mainstream parties, where we're talking about addressing poverty, addressing racism, addressing sexism, addressing the things that are hindering people in the LGBTQIA community. So we're saying those things because we're not beholden to big business.
Absolutely. So is that, have you ever been green before this run?
No. Now, I've known Howie. I've been on panels with Howie before. We've had discussions. He is someone who, listening to him, talking to him, it made sense, because I think that there is a synergy between what the Greens believe and what the Socialists believe. And I think, that coming into being known as an eco-socialist party now, I think they adopted that in 2018. It just made sense. I mean, for me, it was a logical step from, standing up for the rights of people, to standing up for the rights of non-human life, standing up for the life of the planet herself. So those things are extremely important to me as a person, and it wasn't a leap.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it says a lot that, so many people who are independent minded, like, we really don't give a shit about labels. Like, we don't care if you're not a Dem. We do platform. That's what's important. Um, you one of the things, I was looking through your Twitter and I was just so excited because I was like, we have a VP candidate who is defending Antifa, who is calling out Obama. And like, I was like so excited, like, oh my God, she really does speak her mind. What are, as a woman of color, what is going through your head this past week? I mean, it's like you can't look away, but it's so traumatic watching this crap, but you can't look away. What are you going through emotionally?
I do a lot of crying, and I don't like people to know. It took me a minute to learn that vulnerability is a strength and not a weakness. And so I freely admit it. I mean, I spend a lot of time crying. I spend a lot of time thinking about, when I think about the things that my people have endured, what we survived, what our lineage, our common lineage is, and the resilience that is built into us, the creativity that is built into us. Those things are huge. And, it's a collective trauma. And we're seeing that collective trauma being played out in the streets. People aren't just doing whatever. There is a lot of grief and a lot of rage there that we can't just simply live. And so those are the things that I am thinking about. And also just wanting people to be mindful that, when they start saying, okay, this is the enemy, it's a divide and conquer tactic. And I'm hoping that all of us on the left saw right through that. And that we know, for me, defending anarchists or standing with anarchists is personal. One of my dearest, best, closest friends is an anarchist. And so, I mean, and in actions that I've been involved in, organizing work that I've done, they've shown up. These are the people that are, when I'm talking about mutual aid, them are the people I'm talking about. It's like not a thing with them. And so I just need us to not forget, with all of this, care about each other, build relationships that are worth having and holding on to, because this is only going to get wilder. And overarching all of this, we still have a pandemic happening.
Absolutely. I went to a protest on Saturday and I saw a white woman wearing an Obama shirt. And I
bless her.
Like, she's trying, but what is your message to, you were posting a lot about, the pain that a lot of African Americans still feel, when Obama posts his posts like he has been the past few days. What is your message to white people to try and, explain to them where you guys are coming from?
We like to look in this culture for saviors. And we have to look deeper than, hey, this guy wasn't Donald Trump. He's not a fascist. We have to look deeper. Under the Obama administration, the Black Lives Matter movement was born. The Black man in office. So, I mean, we need to be honest about the fact that this person who is relatively benign that was not such a benign administration for immigrants. It was not a benign administration for Black folks. I mean, I remember speaking, he made a and he's done this numerous times, where he chastised back in, I want to say it was 2016, chastised the folks organizing for Black Lives Matter on their tactics. And my thing is, how dare you? How dare you approach us with respectability politics, because the way that we're moving is not the way you think it needs to be done. Who are you to tell these young people how to do what they're doing? You are not out there with them. Mind your business and stay in your lane and let these young folks handle their business. You should know better. And that's what I'm feeling with this now. It's like you are not relevant to what's happening right now. You're not helping. You served capitalism in the way you were supposed to. And I think a whole lot of folks have to look at the fact that that's his role. That was his job. And I saw somebody on Twitter decrying the fact that the Democrats are not the leftist she had hoped they were. And all I could do was
Yeah.
like, no.
Yeah.
We got so much work to do. Oh, we got so much work to do.
Oh my God, we do. And you know, social media is a beautiful thing because you can connect with people, but it also just makes you want to scream.
Yes.
It can go both ways.
It's like, baby, let me hug you, because no, I've been lied to. No, let's talk. I didn't bother her with it, but I was like, no, honey. No. It was so bad.
You on your platform, you guys have a generally, you know, the essential green platform, decriminalize all drugs, which is a huge step in criminal justice reform. Can you touch on why you and Howie support that?
Absolutely. I mean, you're not going to stop people from using drugs. You're not going to do that. And so, at least with marijuana, it needs to be decriminalized. It needs to be legal for adult use, medicinal, and whatever you're going to do with that. And also, think about the fact of all the places in this country where it is now legal. Who is leading in the industry as far as growers and making money hand over fist? I've seen what it's traded for on the stock market. So it's like, you know, these are not people who are coming from communities that have been basically torn apart by this so-called war on drugs. That's not who this is. So I think that, you know, it goes towards economic justice for people. Let folks out of prison. You know, you've got people in this country who are dealing for free, dealing legally. Let marijuana offenders out of prison and give them precedence in the growing industry. And you're talking about like an economic leg up, that's one of them. But also harder drugs, criminalizing the use of drugs isn't effective. You victimize people, you present them or prevent them from getting access to resources that may help them. They're not criminals. And so just make access to treatment freely available for those who choose it. Don't judge people because they use. Substance use has histories in many different cultures. So, I mean, you know, there's also that, but drug use is not criminal. Long and short of it.
Absolutely. And on that, you know, with giving treatment instead of arresting and all the recidivism rates, with that comes Medicare for All, which you and Howie both support, which would be the epitome of what would help. You know, that would be the catalyst to help all of this. Why do you support Medicare for All?
Why wouldn't I? I mean, personally, just thinking of me as a person, I can't tell you the stress that it gives me to know that my access to the medical care that I have is contingent on me having the job that I have. If something happens, and this has happened to me, where I don't have this particular job, I don't have medical coverage. I have I don't have I have a chronic condition. It's not like this horrible, oh my goodness, it's not a big deal, but it is a big deal. It needs watching. And so I need access to a doctor. And I don't need to have to go jump through hoops and hope that, I can patch together, what is available in the state to get coverage. So, and just thinking about people like my mom, both of my parents had cancer. And so, and neither of them have private insurance. And thinking about the way that my mom was treated because she had state insurance and the way that folks felt like they could talk to her. All of those things come into that for me. I think one of the biggest things with Medicare for All is you're simply ensuring dignity for people and respect for people. I think that it would go a long way towards destigmatizing mental illness, to have treatment and counseling and what folks need readily available. You just go get it. And that's how it should be. What bigger way, what more intelligent way to invest in the health of the people of your country than to invest in the health of the people of your country? I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen the documentary Salud.
I'm sorry.
There's a documentary called Salud.
Yes.
Have you seen it?
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I sat there and cried. I felt, it's like we have been cheated in this country. And people don't realize this isn't the way it has to be. And it is not a revolutionary idea to have access to medical care that people don't have to choose between their rent and whatever chronic thing is happening with them. You just go in and get care. It just makes sense.
Absolutely. And I see Howie has joined us. Hi, Howie. Hey. He's in the comments. That's a nice surprise. Eric, my buddy, he said, Angela is super likable. That's good. I agree. Ashley Frame said, to be honest, I would follow this woman anywhere. So motivated.
I think Ashley is partial.
She might be, but I think it's valid. You kind of touched on housing. You support a housing guarantee and rent control, universal rent control. Now you live in South Carolina, and you and Howie lives in New York. So New York is just New York and California are really bad, especially, and Washington State. How is it in South Carolina as far as the need for housing?
I don't, and I'm a transplant, so I can't speak with a whole lot of authority. I think that I'm not real sure, to be honest with you. I lived in a hotel for the last 3 years just because when I moved down here, I was with a former best friend, and we are definitely not friends anymore. So I needed to find somewhere else to go really quickly. It is what it is. Yeah. And this was a weekly thing, simple, but what I noticed is there's a lot of kids. There are a lot of families. There's a lot of transients with families moving in, families moving out. And so it kind of made me wonder about, folks being housing unstable here. And then on the other hand, there's a lot of land here. There's a lot of folks that still have generational ties to their land. And, family networks, kinship networks, where folks are like, we got the land, put a trailer on it. Okay, we're good. So I really can't speak with like a whole bunch of authority because I'm not from here. The city that I am from, that book Evicted, there you go. Milwaukee is we got a lot going on. Got a lot going on. So
Well, if the convention still happens, as of now, it still is. I already have my room booked in Milwaukee. I'm flying out from Pennsylvania because I was protesting in 2016, and if it's going on, it's on.
yeah,
I'm not passing that up.
I kind of have to be there. So I mean,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
Well, I
like
will definitely be there in support of you guys and not support of Biden.
yeah,
Definitely.
yeah. This is going to be interesting. I mean, there's so much that has happened in Milwaukee around that where it's just like, yeah, yeah.
And speaking of Biden, like, I don't think he can beat Trump, first of all, but if he does, how fucked are we? Like, how
That's a perfect way to put that.
like, I'm just trying to, like,
Oh my God, that was perfect. That was perfect.
Is it?
Well, it depends on what you believe. if the most minimal possible surface harm reduction, baby steps are what if they'll appease people, then I think you'll get that deep, systemic, trying to change things to make things better. We are absolutely not going to have that with him. And he has basically said it. I mean, he's made disparaging comments about the Latinx vote. He has basically told Black folks if we don't vote for him, we're not Black, as if no one even does that. And it's very obvious that he does not respect women. And as far as the things that particularly folks lined up behind Bernie Sanders about, like Medicare for all, certain other things happening with that, you're not going to get it. He's already said he ain't for it. So it's like at this, and I listen to a lot of Black queer podcasts, and one thing that I keep hearing, I'm going to email all of them, but one thing I keep hearing is their absolute frustration that this is all they've been offered. Of all the possible candidates, and this is the second time the Democrats have done this, why do you keep giving people unpalatable candidates and then chastising them when they won't vote? You're throwing garbage at people. Nobody wanted Joe Biden. That was stupid. And for Bernie to turn around and endorse him was insulting to all the people I know that busted their tails on doors for him. That hurt my feelings, and I didn't stand him like that. You know what I'm saying? And so it was like one thing for you to concede or say, okay, I'm going to withdraw from the race. It's another thing for you to take all of that energy, all of those people, all of their hopes for you, and say, here, hand them to old boy. How dare you? And I'd ask him that to his face. I have respect for you, but at the same time, how dare you?
Oh yeah. I have told people on the campaign, I have made that very known, and that's why that poster where it has a heart with the thing through it, because he broke my heart. It is not him, us. Now that's it. I moved to Iowa for 5 weeks to volunteer for him. I've done everything for him for our campaign. And that was just like, hey, you could come here and get on your knees at my house right now. I'm still not voting for Biden. So
sorry. I mean, and I've got friends in Wisconsin that went hard for Sanders. I mean, went hard. And they're just like, what now? And I'm like, well.
Exactly. It seems like the best option.
Since you asked, and one of the demands, we wrote an open letter to a radio program where Biden made what he called was a gaffe, but we all know he said exactly what he meant to say. And was like, one of the questions asked of Joe Biden was that he have a black woman running mate. And I don't know if you watched that clip, you know exactly the one I'm talking about, where he brought Stacey Abrams. It made my stomach hurt. I wanted to hit him. And I'll tell him that to his face. I wanted to slap him. You don't have to do it that way. If you're not going to have her as your running mate, you could have done that privately. Yeah. The fact that you brought a beloved black woman figure for a whole lot of people, someone who would have made you tolerable for those people, you basically told black women, but you gave the finger to black women everywhere. And no.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Stacey, but when I saw her face, I was like,
that hurt me.
My God, that was dirty. That was so messed up. Oh my God.
As a black woman, I know she, her politics are mad questionable. But, for those of us where we are. And but as a black woman, to have him do that, knowing what she meant to like so many other black women, how dare you? And then get on this radio show and say, well, if you don't go for me, you're not black. I was about to cuss.
I did.
I have a filthy mouth. But yeah, I cussed at the clip when I saw it. It was like, who are you playing with?
Yeah. Why do you think that people don't hold Biden accountable? Like, if, let's say, Bernie said or did any of these things, oh my God.
You already know.
First off, he was VP of
Obama, a lot of exactly. People associate with him with Obama, and like we were talking about before, he's viewed as a very relatively benign person, a lot more progressive. But those of us on the left know that's some surface shit. I mean, you look deeper and you see this is someone who the deportations that Trump, I don't even say that person's name, that individual in the White House, the way that he's handling that policy is greased by President Obama. They call him the deporter in chief. So it was like, we made some gains under his administration. Folks who, gay marriage was legalized. And for people who want, that's an important thing. It's a very important thing. I don't believe in marriage, but that's me. I believe in it for other people. Me, I ain't with it. But the right to marry is
the right person yet. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Single, ready to mingle.
And I'm a hermit. I don't do a lot of mingling either. But yeah, it's just like, we made some, and I think like you were asking about why people give Biden a pass, it's because they don't think they have any other options. I mean, the fear is real. The fear of another 4 years of that individual that is currently in the White House, that is a very potent thing for a whole lot of people. And I can't be mad at them for that. It's frightening. But, and I don't beat people in the head. I let them know what our platform is, and that if this was not a platform that I could support with my whole soul, I wouldn't have anything to do with it. Because I don't have to do that. I like my little mouse-like quiet life. But this platform speaks to the rights of human beings, the rights of non-human life on this planet. It speaks to the fact that we do not use this planet and her creatures and her resources as commodities. That goes to the core of everything I believe in. So, Biden's strength is, I'm not him. That's it. That's all he's got. And people are riding with that, even though it makes them sick to their stomachs because they feel like they don't have another choice.
What's really sad though is we have 5 months until November, and people are already complacent. Well, you know what? So why would the DNC do a damn thing to change? Because we're supposed to have at least a little leverage right now to be like, look, you're not going to get our votes unless tangibles. But no, because too many people are like, well, vote blue no matter who, sorry. So they're just presumptuous they have enough. And it's privilege. It is pure privilege to say, I have what I have, so I'm good.
Yes.
And you better just, that should be good enough for you too. It's so infuriating. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but
no, but I want you to say it. I want to hear it.
It's so infuriating.
It's heartbreaking because I've said it on Twitter. Like, I am literally going through people's tweets and they are begging, please. There was a gentleman that said, I have tears in my eyes as I tweet this. Please, Senator Sanders, unsuspend your campaign. And my thing is, how do you do this to people? You knew when you threw your hat in the ring what was at stake.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? I don't understand it.
It was the pandemic, unfortunately, that really started effing everything up because Joe kept saying, go out and vote, go out and vote. And unfortunately, Bernie has a conscience and was like, people are getting sick and dying. But after those 2 weeks, when everything went vote by mail, he should have come back in and said, okay, now everything's vote by mail. Let's get busy. But he never came back. And that is what
opened the door for us.
Now it's like, okay, it really is not me, us. It's us time. Like, it's us time.
But Joy, I would argue it always was.
It was.
It always was.
Absolutely.
People have to stop looking for saviors. We are the only ones that are going to save us. Nobody from on high is going to come and pull a deus ex machina and everything's going to be great. The normal that we had before coronavirus was not acceptable. There will be, I think we need to understand that. The way that we have been living is not sustainable. And I think all of this upheaval, all of this uncertainty, all of this unrest, this rebellion is necessary because we can't, like what you just said, that complacency. We're not in a position to be complacent anymore. I think in this year of absolutely unforeseen stuff, who knows what we could pull off. So.
I know.
I'm geeked.
It's gonna be interesting, scary but interesting. You have on your platform, obviously, the Green New Deal. One of my favorite parts about it is the federal jobs guarantee.
Yes.
Well, actually tying into that, you also have $20 minimum wage. And you have, so let's go with those two things, the federal job guarantee and $20 minimum wage. How do you think something like that would affect the 40 million people who are currently on unemployment?
Think about the fact of not having to stress about not having money. I think that, not to defend these jackasses, but what we saw with these armed people going into state houses across the country is misguided anger. You are protesting, which is ridiculous, but you're protesting the fact that your governor has called a quarantine to keep people safe. You're not looking deep. What you're really mad about is the fact that you are not able to support your family in the way that you would like to, because schools are not open for good reason. You know, things had to shut down. And so you take the way that the United States handled the pandemic, and that's like foremost on my mind. Going forward from that is a safety net from people. But think about if that had been in place when this happened, how much more at ease people would have been if that infrastructure was there. And coupled with, you know, a universal health care, you know, a national health service, community controlled, that they didn't have to worry. And so thinking about if we are serious about addressing uplift for people and being holistic, eradicate poverty. If everyone was drawing some sort of livable income and did not have to worry about all the things that are happening with this pandemic, I think we'd have a lot more stability and a lot less uncertainty. But because there is no national health service in place, because folks, and I am deemed an essential worker. I was never quarantined. I've been working the entire time. And people like my daughter, who is a CNA, working without PPE. Oh, we took care of that. I mean, I've been making my own hand sanitizers for years. I made sure she wouldn't got what she needed, and a friend of mine in Milwaukee sews masks, you know, provided my daughter with them and some of the nurses, you know, young women that she works with. So, but the fact that we had to do that, and these are the people that you're putting out in harm's way because they can't stay home because you lose money. We need to eliminate that uncertainty, eliminate that as a problem that people have. It's economic justice.
Absolutely. Let's see, you it looks like you and Howie right now have 151.5 delegates. I'm not sure how that works. The 0.5. You need 189. So that's super close. And Dario has 53.5. So you guys have about 3 times what he does. Now, it doesn't. I'm sorry?
I didn't say anything.
Oh, I must be echoing. It doesn't say when the convention will be determined or anything. Is that because of COVID or?
It's gonna be online because of COVID. Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
because
okay.
of COVID. Like most things, you know, everything, all the town halls that we've been doing,
Right.
all of those things, it has to be online for safety, which makes sense to me.
Is there a date for it?
I know it's in July.
Yeah, I saw July, but they didn't have an actual date.
Let me see.
What happens if neither one of you, if Howie or Dario doesn't reach the 191 or 189 rather?
I actually don't see that happening. Oh, the convention is July 11th. Thank y'all. Because I'm trying to pull it up, and yeah. And yes, as Howie is saying, we expect to reach our win number before then.
Okay.
But yes, our convention is the 11th of July. I mean, I think that people are really responsive to, especially now. It is very heavy energy. It's a very dark time. I think that a message of left unity and a message that, you know, we have a solid plan. This is not aspirational. This is not something that someone threw together. You know, this is something before I ever met Howie that they have been working on forever. I mean, if you've ever spoken with him, he's like an encyclopedia. It's great. I mean, I just sit and listen. It's really amazing.
I met Howie. while back. I don't even know if you remember, Howie. It was in New York. You did a little speaking event at the Left Forum. You had an after party for your campaign. And we went to a bar and donated $10, and you did a speech with a young woman before you. Yeah, it was in New York, but that was probably last summer. It was a while ago, but yeah, so that was fun. I was like, wow, I already am getting to know this guy. This is cool. The convention plans have been in flux. Actual voting date was just decided a couple of days ago. Okay. Have you seen Howie's bookshelf?
Yes, I was gonna. Yes, thank you. This man is. I mean, just listening to him talk and to be as smart and as to have the history that he has and still be very, very approachable, very down to earth, very easy to work with. There's no ego happening. I mean, what can I say?
Well, that gives points right there. I built a library in my house. My husband and I are both English majors.
Okay.
So I'm like, book collection. Yeah.
Books are life. Books are life.
Yes. So the something people wanted to ask me, and I always listen to my viewers. Are you guys running with the intention to win or to get the 5%?
Both. I am personally looking forward to removing Mike Pence from the White House. I'm looking forward to it. I am waiting to escort him out. I am excited about it.
Yeah.
And not only that, I mean, ballot access is important. And making a path for people who are going to be running down ballot races. Those things are important. And also, one of the things that came for me that is extremely humbling is to have people say, I saw your run in 2016. And before I saw you do that, I didn't think I would have a chance. And now I'm running. Or this is what I'm doing. Or this is what I'm doing. It's amazing. And it's humbling. And so, there's a whole lot of things that come in with it, but are we running to win? Yeah. And like he just said, 5% is a milestone to the goal. But I will say it, I want to win. I think in this year of unbelievable things, I think it's definitely possible.
Awesome. Let's see, in 2000, speaking of voting, in 2000, you were involved with Florida ballot recounts, which marked the first of many of your protests. Florida is infamous for just Broward County and all kinds of so, we saw it in 2016. We're seeing it now. There's so much cheating. It's ridiculous. Do you and Howie have a plan of how you can kind of try to track or counteract something? Are you going to have volunteers at polling locations, things like that?
All of those things are on the table. We absolutely are in support, especially with COVID, of mail-in ballots. And we are aware of the chicanery that, one of our favorite words, that happened in, again, my home state, which made international news and got a whole lot of people sick with coronavirus that did not have to happen. And so we're thinking of all of those, bringing all of those possibilities in, but what keeps people safe? And voter voters being intimidated at the polls is a very real thing. I was a legal observer a few years ago for the ACLU, a poll watcher, and the person that I had ousted for repeated encroachment and attempted intimidation of voters was a sitting Wisconsin representative who later didn't keep his seat. But he was removed from the polling place. So people that think that that isn't happening, it's a very real thing. And so, going forward, this is going to definitely be something we are involved in. I'm actually thinking personally about being a poll watcher simply because I've done it before.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. You also have this, I digress, but you also have decriminalization for sex work. I saw Howie posted. I rarely see that on platforms, and it's so necessary. So can you explain why you both support that?
I think one of the things that keeps people shying away from even addressing it is conflating sex work with human trafficking, and not sifting through the nuances between the two. Every sex worker is not trafficked. Most sex workers are not trafficked. And we favor, especially in the age of foster system, where folks who have been able to use certain modalities, like Backpage, like, online forums and things like that, not only to find, find clients, but also to speak to each other about keeping safe. That's a network for them. And under this, they don't have that. And so you're forcing people out into uncertain situations and further marginalizing them. And, if we are talking about justice and equality for all people, you can't leave sex workers out of that discussion. My position has always been, and Howie's position is the fact that sex workers are workers. They deserve the same options to unionize, the same health protections, the same respect and end of stigma, and the same access to a living wage as any other worker. And so it's like with drug legalization, it's just kind of a no-brainer. You're not going to stop people from choosing to do sex work. You are not going to stop people from going to sex work. So built into the decriminalization piece is a mindfulness of making sure that you are not having minors involved, and that the people who are engaging in sex work are there because they choose it, not because they're being forced.
Right. And then if something should happen where they are forced, they don't fear going to the police to actually report it.
And I was actually going to say this, because I have Ashley and I have a sex work town hall coming up, but I was a stripper. So, I mean, it's something, again, it's something that's very, very close to me. And I used to tell people, I was the legislative director for my union for a few years. And one of the things that I told people is I learned my people skills, the way I can approach senators and other politicians and lobby for my union. I learned those skills on a poll. So if you're talking about those people disparagingly and you respect me, well, you're talking about me too, because I used to do
it. That's awesome. Is there anything else you would like to share about your campaign that you would like the viewers to take away from our discussion?
Like you and I discussed a little earlier, there's a lot of fear. There are a lot of people who are not considering third parties viable because they're afraid of that individual that's in the Oval Office retaining that office. But as Ibram X. Kendi, and I say this all the time, my favorite quote, one of my favorite quotes is, people are always thinking about what will happen if they resist. People need to be thinking about what will happen if they don't. If the thought of voting for Joe Biden and having to give your support, being coerced basically into giving your support to this person turns your stomach, be open to the idea of doing something you have never done before. Be open to the idea of the possibility that we could flip this government. And also believe in people's power. I mean, we are so inundated with messages from the ruling class that we don't have any power, that sometimes we believe it, and that we don't have any choices. And we have plenty of choices. And in this year of impossible things, what are we willing to do? So I'm just thinking, imagine forward. What kind of world do you want? What will it take to make that happen?
Absolutely. And you guys definitely remember, the chance of your state losing by one vote is literally astronomically impossible. So just, if you feel like, oh my God, I'm gonna, they told me the whole election is my fault, don't. Go with your gut, go with yourself, do what is right for you. You are the one that's going to have to live with it. All the burners who voted for Hillary last time will never be able to live with themselves because she didn't win anyway. So definitely don't convince yourself by these options. There are other options, and I'm talking to one of them. So also, before I forget, I want you to say you are raising money because there's going to be some donations that will be
matching funds. And so if you are able, because I know it's the time of COVID, but folks who are able to donate up to $250, the state will match. We're getting to where the state will match those funds dollar for dollar. And so it's helpful for us. And if people can, it helps. I mean, we're not going to, and we're not trying to, we don't have the access to, big, we don't take corporate money. So when you're talking about completely publicly funded campaign, this is it. So if you got some coins and you want to toss them our way, we absolutely appreciate it. And it'll help us to get to matching funds, which is a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I thank you so much for joining us tonight, Angela. You are amazing. I really hope to talk to you again in the future.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Your website, your Twitter, all that fun stuff for everyone watching.
Well, we're on Howie Hawkins, www.howiehawkins.us. The entire platform is laid out. And under campaign updates, because a lot of people have been asking us, well, have you made a statement about the uprising? Have you made a statement about this? All of that's on there. We've made plenty of statements. One just came out today. So we're making, we've spoken on the murder of transgender people, that, there's an epidemic, things like that. All those things are on the website. And, if you're moved to donate, that's there too. I am on Twitter under Angela N. Walker. I am on Facebook under Angela N. Walker. And Instagram under Angela N. Walker. Make it simple
enough. Stephen, he's a huge follower of the show. He said, voting Howie 2020. Yay.
Yes.
It's always good to see fun comments. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Howie. Thank you both for joining. And once again, thank you so much, Angela. I wish you the best. You're an incredible person. I think Howie definitely picked a gem for sure.
That is an honor. I really, really appreciate that. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Take care, everyone. Much love.
Thank y'all. Thank you, Joy, for having me.
Absolutely.